My name is James. I'm 32, born and raised in Chicago. I work as a field systems engineer. Basically, I travel around fixing things most people don't think about: power lines, network nodes, old communication units in towns no one's ever heard of. I've been doing it for 7 years now. It pays well. I get left alone, and there's a kind of peace in showing up, doing your job, and leaving before anyone learns your name. This time they sent me to a small town in Vermont, population under 1,000, maybe 900 something. No traffic lights, no supermarkets, and the diner closes at 6. The place looked like time stopped somewhere around 1983. I was scheduled to be there for 10 days to fix a busted regional hub that was cutting off some emergency signal systems, a routine job. They gave me a small room above the fire station. It smelled like pine wood and old socks. The bed was squeaky but clean. I didn't unpack much, just took out my tools, my laptop, and a charger. Except the charger didn't work. Wrong port. Rookie mistake. I asked the guy at the station if there was a tech store nearby. He pointed toward Main Street and said, "If she's open, you'll see the sign. If she's not, you'll know too." So I walked. It was early evening, cloudy quiet. I passed a bar with two old men sitting out front, both staring like I'd arrived from another planet. Past that, there was the sign, Thompson's Tech and Hardware. Door slightly open. I stepped in. It was dimly lit, clean. It smelled faintly of coffee and sawdust. There were shelves with extension cords, light bulbs, USBs, dusty routers, and what looked like an ancient fax machine. In the corner behind the counter stood a woman, early 20s, maybe mid-blonde hair pulled into a messy ponytail. No makeup, sleeves rolled up, and a pencil behind one ear. She looked up. "New in town?" "Yeah," I said. "Just in for work." She nodded. "What are you looking for?" "USB-C charger." I brought the wrong one. She stepped out from behind the counter, walked past me, and knelt down near a plastic bin of cables. "These are the ones people always forget to pack," she said, fishing through them. Guilty. She stood and handed me one. "Try this. $10. No warranty, no refunds, no regrets." I smiled. Sounds like a motto. She shrugged. "Around here it is." I took the charger, pulled a 20 from my wallet, and handed it to her. She rang me up and gave me change without saying much else. I turned to go. "Hey," she said behind me. I paused. "Are you local?" she asked. I turned back. "No, just here for a bit." She looked at me, really looked. Not a glance, not polite interest. Her eyes locked on mine, like she was measuring something or maybe confirming a suspicion. Her voice dropped just slightly softer but more direct. "Pity," she said. I was ready. She didn't wait for me to respond, just walked back to the counter and opened a small notebook, flipping a page like our conversation hadn't even happened. I stood there for another second, maybe two, not sure if I should say something, ask what she meant, laugh it off, but something in her tone stopped me. It wasn't flirtation. It wasn't a joke. It felt like something else. I left without saying a word, walked back through the street, past the old men who were still sitting and still watching. The wind had picked up. I didn't notice it right away, but I was still holding the charger in my hand like I'd forgotten to pocket it. Back at the fire station, I plugged in my phone, sat on the edge of the bed, and just stared at the wall. Pity I was ready. She said it like she meant it, and I had no idea what she meant. I didn't sleep well that night, not because the bed was uncomfortable, it was fine, but that sentence kept running laps through my head. Pity I was ready. She didn't say it like a joke. She didn't smile when she said it, and there was something about the way she looked at me, not playful, not even curious. It was more like she already knew something I didn't. The next morning I was up early. The sky was heavy with clouds again. Vermont looked like it hadn't decided whether it was spring or just the tail end of winter pretending to be nice. I worked most of the day around the east side of town, checking signal boxes and redoing a bad junction. I skipped lunch, drank water from a truck stop bottle that had rolled under the seat a week ago, and didn't think much about going back to the store until I finished early. I told myself I needed a backup set of headphones just in case. Total lie, I still had two working pairs in my bag. I walked back into the same store. The bell over the door gave a soft ding. She was behind the counter, sitting on a stool, flipping through an old paperback with a cracked spine. She looked up, didn't say anything at first. "Back so soon?" she asked. "Yeah, I forgot to pack headphones too," I said, holding up my phone like I needed to prove it. She stood and walked to a small rack behind the register. "Let me guess," she said. "Wired cheap and guaranteed to break in 2 weeks." "Perfect." She handed me a pair in a clear plastic case, then hesitated. "You want some coffee?" I blinked. "Sure." She bent under the counter and came back with a thermos and two mismatched mugs, poured quietly. "It's terrible," she warned. "Just so you know." "I've had worse," I said, taking a sip. "Okay, I've had better too." That made her smile, small, tight-lipped, but real. We sat on a stack of boxed electric drills behind the counter, elbows touching the wall, coffee cups in hand. For about 2 minutes, we just drank. She looked over at me. "You're really not from around here?" "Nope. Chicago, big city." "You've been," she shook her head. "Never been on a plane?" "Never seen a train that wasn't carrying lumber." I glanced at her. "You're missing out." She shrugged. "Maybe, but people like me don't leave. We're born here, we die here, and in between we work, we wait, and we try not to want too much." There was no bitterness in how she said it, just plain fact. "You ever wanted to," I asked, "leave?" She paused, swirling her coffee like she was trying to find an answer in the motion. "Yeah, once. What stopped you?" She looked right at me. "Same thing that usually stops people, someone else's expectations." We sat in silence for a few moments. Then she added, "Maybe that's why I said what I said yesterday." I looked at her. "What exactly were you ready for?" Her eyes didn't flinch. "Someone not from here, someone who doesn't know everyone's name or what happened in '03 at the county fair. Someone who might see me without all this around me." That's a pretty big ask from a guy looking for a charger. "Yeah," she said, then took a sip. "But still, I don't know what it was about that moment. There was no music playing, no dramatic lighting, just two strangers sitting behind a dusty counter, drinking bad coffee and trying not to say too much. But I felt something shift. We talked for maybe 10 more minutes, nothing deep. She told me she was 24, had worked there since high school. Her mom had died 5 years ago. She lived with her grandmother in a two-bedroom house up the road. She liked crossword puzzles, she'll puzzle, and hated the way the hardware store next door always smelled like oil. I told her about the traveling, the long hours, the way I didn't really feel connected to anywhere, not anymore. When I stood to go, she didn't walk me to the door. She just nodded once. As I opened it, I glanced across the street. A guy was leaning against a pole outside the diner, red flannel shirt, worn jeans, trucker hat, arms crossed, just watching. He didn't smile, didn't wave, just stared. I stepped outside and walked past him without saying a word. Halfway down the block, I turned around. He was still there watching me go. Back at my room, I sat on the edge of the bed again, the new headphones still in the bag. I didn't need them, I knew that. But I needed something to go back for, or I just wanted to see if she'd still pour me coffee. The next few days were gray, cold, and quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful but expectant, like something's watching you. I stayed busy. Work kept me moving, and that helped. I didn't go back to the store right away, not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't want to mess it up. Whatever that weird thread was between me and her, I didn't want to pull it too hard and watch it snap. And besides, I could feel the town breathing differently when I walked past, the way the old woman at the bakery looked at me, the way conversations stopped when I walked into the hardware store next door. It wasn't hostile exactly, just watchful. Late Thursday, I was finishing some cable calibration near the edge of the fire station's lot. I was kneeling next to an access box when I heard boots on gravel behind me. I stood up slowly and turned. A guy in his 20s flannel shirt, stained work gloves tucked in his waistband, and that same trucker hat was standing there with his arms crossed. I recognized him instantly, the guy from across the street. He didn't speak right away, just looked at me like he was figuring out if he needed to bother. "You the tech guy?" he finally asked. "Yeah," I said. "James?" He nodded slowly, then took a few steps forward. "Name's Travis." We shook hands. His grip was tight, the kind that tries to send a message. "So," he said, "you just here for the job, just here to fix what's broken." I said. He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "A lot of things broken around here." I nodded. "So I hear." Another beat of silence. Then he said, "You've been talking to Kelly." I didn't answer right away. Something in the way he asked told me the answer didn't matter, he already knew. "I bought a charger," I said, "twice." He didn't say anything. "She's a good girl," he continued. "This town, it's hard on people like her. She's been through enough without someone blowing in for a few days and messing with her head." I stared at him calmly. "I'm not messing with her head." "You're not from here," he said. "You don't get how things work." I wanted to laugh. I didn't. Instead, I said, "I've been in 100 towns like this, people thinking they're the first to feel something or lose something or protect something. You don't have a monopoly on care." That got under his skin. I could see it. His jaw flexed, but he didn't move. "I'm just saying," he muttered, "don't get too comfortable." He turned and walked off, slow, deliberate steps, like he wanted to give me time to think about it. I didn't go back inside. I finished my work, packed up, went upstairs and stared at the ceiling for a long time. The next day I avoided Main Street completely, ate a protein bar, drank cold coffee from a thermos, and worked through lunch. I was halfway through updating the network map when I got a message from my supervisor. "Town council approved your extension. You got 5 more days. They want a full calibration now." 5 more days. I didn't know how I felt about that. That evening, as I walked back through town, I passed the tech store. The lights were still on. I paused just for a second, and then I walked in. Kelly was restocking surge protectors behind the counter. She looked up. Her eyes lit up just for a second, then went neutral again. "Hey," she said. "Hey." She stepped out and leaned against the counter. "You okay?" "I've had better Thursdays," I said. She didn't ask, didn't push, just nodded. "You want coffee?" "Yeah." This time she poured into 2 clean mugs, no thermos. She handed me mine and sat on the stool. We sipped in silence. After a few minutes, I said, "I think I pissed off your friend Travis." "Yeah." She exhaled through her nose. "He's not my friend. He thinks he's something. He's this town," she said quietly, "what I was supposed to end up with." "You don't want that." She looked at me. "Do I seem like someone who wants to live the same year 60 times? "No," I said. "I'm not stupid. I know what people say, that I think I'm better, that I'm waiting for something that's never coming. And maybe I am, but I'd rather wait forever than give up and pretend it's fine." I looked at her. "You don't have to explain yourself to me." "I know," she said, "but it feels good to say it anyway." We talked a little more, nothing serious. She told me she'd applied once to a community college 2 hours away, but never went. Said she still has the acceptance letter in a drawer. I told her I'd once quit a job by writing my resignation on a napkin and taping it to the office door. We laughed. When I stood to go, she looked at me, not like she had something to say, but like she hoped I did. I didn't, not yet. Outside, I passed the diner again. Travis wasn't there, but an older man in an apron was standing by the door. He watched me walk by without smiling, just lifted his cigarette, tapped the ash, and shook his head slightly. I walked back to my room, and for the first time since I got there, I locked the door. Saturday morning came slow. The air outside smelled like wet soil and pine, and I could hear someone mowing a lawn in the distance. The fire station was quieter than usual. No chatter downstairs, no sirens, not even the usual hum of the coffee pot in the hallway. I stepped out, figuring I'd grab a coffee from the diner, but stopped when I saw the same apron-wearing man from the night before standing on the steps. He didn't look at me, just lit a cigarette and faced the street. I turned the other way. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Text from Kelly. "Do you know how to use a hammer without hurting yourself?" I stared at it for a second, smiled, then typed back. "Statistically, I injure myself less than average." Another buzz. "You free where my house. Left on Maple. Last one before the woods. Broken fence. Bring muscles." She wasn't joking. When I got there, the entire corner section of her backyard fence was hanging loose, the wood warped and half rotted at the base. It looked like a windstorm had done the damage or time. She met me in the driveway holding two cold sodas, hair tied back, jeans hoodie dirt under her nails. "Hope you brought tools," she said. "I've got two hands and strong opinions." "That count," she smirked and handed me a soda. "Come on." We worked in silence at first. I held the boards in place while she drilled new screws. The old fence creaked like it had stories to tell. She kept brushing strands of blonde hair out of her face with the back of her wrist. I tried not to stare. "You know," she said after a while, "I haven't let anyone help me back here since my mom died." I didn't know what to say, so I didn't. "She used to plant tomatoes along the edge," she added, nodding toward the crooked row of planters by the shed. "Didn't matter how bad the season was, she always got tomatoes." I finally spoke. "She teach you how to fix fences too." "She taught me how to do everything alone. That's why I don't like help. It makes me feel like I'm doing something wrong." I looked at her. "It's okay to not do everything alone." "Is it?" she asked. "Because around here, people treat needing someone like a character flaw." I leaned the last board against the post and reached for the level. "Then maybe they've got it backwards." She didn't answer. Once the last screw was in, we stood back and looked at it. It wasn't perfect, but it was solid, good enough to keep out raccoons and bad decisions, she said, which are more dangerous. She smiled, but her eyes didn't. We sat on the back steps. The sun had started to break through the clouds. The air smelled like cut grass and warm wood. Her shoulder brushed mine lightly as she leaned forward. "I said something stupid the first day we met," she said suddenly. I didn't need to ask what she meant. "I said I was ready," she continued, "and I was, but I didn't mean it like what most people probably think." I turned my head slightly. "How did you mean it?" "I meant I was ready to stop waiting for this place to change. I was ready for someone who might see me as more than a girl stuck behind a counter, someone who wouldn't see me as a dead end." I nodded. "You don't seem like a dead end. You don't seem like someone who stays." That hit harder than I expected. "I stay longer than people think," I said. She gave me a look, not doubting, not mocking, just measuring. "You'll leave," she said gently. "That's not a bad thing, but don't pretend you won't." "I'm not pretending." "Then be honest. Whatever this is temporary." I looked down at my boots. Dirt clung to the soles from the yard. My hands were still a little shaky from the drilling, and I realized I didn't want to leave, not yet. "I don't know what this is," I said finally, "but I know I don't want to screw it up by pretending it's nothing." She didn't respond, just reached down, pulled a dandelion from between the cracks in the step, and twirled it between her fingers. "Travis came by yesterday," she said after a minute. "What did he want?" "To remind me that people talk, that they're watching, that being seen with you makes me look desperate." I clenched my jaw. "You're not." "I know that," she said, "but I don't know if I can live with their version of me." "You don't owe them anything." "I owe my grandmother peace," she said. "She already gets stared at enough when I wear jeans instead of church skirts." We sat there until the sun dipped a little lower, until the light shifted and the bugs started humming. "I should go," I said. She nodded. "Yeah." I stood. She did too. We didn't hug, didn't touch, but something passed between us. Not heat, not tension, but understanding. As I walked down the driveway, she called out softly, "I kept that acceptance letter, you know." I turned back. "To the college," she nodded. "Still have it in a drawer. I open it sometimes just to remember I could have left." "You still can." She gave the smallest nod. "Maybe." I walked home slowly. When I got back to my room, I saw something new on the door, spray painted in red letters. "Go home." Big, sloppy, angry. I didn't even feel surprise. I just stared at it for a long time. Then I unlocked the door, went inside, and sat in the dark. I didn't bother washing the paint off the door. It was still there the next morning when I stepped outside, bright red, already starting to flake slightly in the chill air. Go home. Nothing subtle about it. I didn't take a picture, didn't send it to my supervisor, didn't call the town office. There's no point complaining to people who already decided you're the problem. Instead, I finished my last assignments, checked the final network node, by the post office, recalibrated the relay behind the high school gym, signed off the last maintenance log. Done. That night, I received a final confirmation from my supervisor project completed room reserved at Montpelier tomorrow night before you fly out. I replied with a thumbs up emoji. That's all I had in me. I didn't plan on saying goodbye, but I found myself walking toward the store anyway. The open sign was still glowing weakly in the window. Inside, the lights were half off and the air was filled with that same smell, coffee and dust, and something faintly citrus. Kelly was behind the counter sorting receipts. She looked up the second the bell rang. "You're done," she asked. I nodded. "Everything signed off, leaving in the morning." She put the papers down slowly. "You came to say goodbye." "I wasn't going to, but here I am." She looked down at the counter for a long second, then back up. "I figured someone would scare you off sooner." "Someone tried." "Was it Travis?" I gave a tired smile. "Honestly, I think it was everyone." She didn't laugh, it just gave a quiet nod like she already knew. "I'm not going to pretend this has been anything more than a few conversations and a busted fence." I said, "But I haven't felt this way in a while." She looked at me like she was memorizing my face, not in a dramatic way, more like she wanted to remember what I looked like when I was saying something honest. "I was ready," she said again softly, "but not stupid." "I didn't come here looking for anything," I replied, "and I'm not asking you to chase me. I just didn't want to leave without telling you that this meant something to me." She opened the drawer beneath the counter and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I recognized its same crumpled edges, slightly yellowed. She held it out, the acceptance letter. "You kept it?" I asked. She nodded. "Still in a drawer, still unopened." I took it not to read, just to hold. I handed it back. "You know you still can," I said. "You can leave." She looked at the paper. "I don't want to leave just because someone else thinks I should." But don't stay just because it's what they expect either." We stood there for a long time. Then she said, "So this is the part where you go?" I nodded. "Yeah, Montpelier, then Chicago." "Then what?" I hesitated. "I don't know." She walked around the counter and stood in front of me. No hug, no kiss, just eye contact. "Then don't promise anything," she said. "But if you write, I'll read it." I reached into my jacket pocket and handed her a folded paper, my address, cell email carrier pigeon instructions. She smiled this time with a little sadness around the eyes. "I'll keep it somewhere better than a drawer." I turned toward the door, stopped, then turned back and asked, "Do you want me to stay?" She looked at me, really looked, then said, "I want you to come back." That landed harder than anything else she could have said. I nodded. "Okay." Then I walked out. I left town early the next morning, drove out as the sun came up over the hills. I didn't look back at the fire station or the diner or the spray-painted message on the door. I got to Montpelier, checked into the motel, ate the worst microwave pizza I've ever had. My flight left the next morning, no delays, no drama. Back to the city, back to my apartment, back to the white noise. I thought about her a lot. Weeks passed, then a month. One evening I came home late, rain-soaked, my jacket mailbox stuffed with coupons, and nothing important except for one thing, a small envelope, no return address. Inside, a photo of the fence we fixed together, repainted, straight behind it, tomato plants growing in neat rows. And one sentence, handwritten on the back, "Still ready." I stood in my kitchen, holding that photo like it was something sacred. And I knew I was going back, not tomorrow, not next week, but soon. Because some stories don't start when you arrive. They start the moment you leave and realize you're not done. James and Kelly's story offers a poignant lesson. True connection often begins in fleeting moments, but requires courage to pursue against the weight of external judgment. James, a transient engineer, and Kelly, a young woman tethered to a small town's expectations, found something rare in their brief encounters: shared coffee, a fixed fence, and raw honesty. Their bond wasn't built on grand promises, but on quiet understanding, revealing that life's most meaningful relationships can spark in the unlikeliest places. Kelly's admission, "I was ready," and James's choice to return despite the town's hostility, teach us that hope and authenticity can defy stagnation and fear. Their story reminds us to embrace the courage to be seen, to reach for connections that feel real, even when they're temporary or judged. The spray-painted "Go Home" on James's door and Kelly's hidden college acceptance letter symbolize the tension between staying safe and chasing what matters. Their quiet promise to stay in touch, marked by a photo of a mended fence, shows that some bonds endure not because they're permanent, but because they're honest. This tale urges us to take risk for those rare moments of connection, to leave behind the comfort of routine, and to believe in the possibility of returning to something or someone worth finding. Have you ever found a connection that felt worth fighting for, despite the odds? Share your story in the comments. We'd love to hear how it changed you. If this tale of courage and quiet hope touched your heart, hit that subscribe button and join our community for more stories that inspire. Let's keep celebrating the beauty of unexpected bonds together.